Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel guys, and this is your host Rakesh, and I am here with another video on ReactJs series, and today I will be covering the integration with AXIOS.js. So what is AXIOS.js first? So AXIOS.js is the HTTP client for Node.js and your browser. Okay, so basically the same package you can use over your browser and over your Node.js if you want to do any kind of API call or basically HTTP request you are going to do. Okay, so let's come to that demonstration. In order to use Axios, so we need Axios package. Okay, so to get the Axios package, either you can go to npm.js or either you can navigate to Axios official documentation. Okay, so any of these places you can just use to do that. Let me close my server and install this. So Axios is installed now, so let me restart my server. Npm start. Okay, great. So we have Axios with us now. If you try to notice our package JSON, it will be added here in the dependencies. Okay, we have Axios, right? So now in order to use Axios, it's pretty much straightforward. You have to just import your Axios, okay, from Axios. Now if you wanted to get the call, so let's define one button so on which you click and you basically get the data button, and you'll say get post data. Okay, I'll just define one on click, handle click. Okay, so I'll just quickly define here const handle click equals. So what we will do here, so as and when somebody click on this, we wanted to get the data from our server. So what we can do, so we can define a method, async method. Okay, so this will be like get async function, and now what we can do is const data equals await axios dot get. Okay, so now simply you have to just do this and console.log data. So now we just need to execute this. So we have just defined the data, okay, right now, and we don't have any URL. So with Axios, right, it's pretty much sorted. So first parameter is the URL in the get method, and second parameter is your options. So basically if it is a get call, then you don't need to pass any kind of options, you just need to pass the URL. So let's get the URL from here, the dummy URL. Okay, so let me put that here. Okay, so as I have this dummy URL with me, so now what I can do, I can just go back to my demo and I'll see this. As and when I click on this, I'll do one request call. You can monitor the network. On the network I'm doing one call, right, and after I call on that, and then definitely I'll receive the data. So but you see a lot of other information is coming and coming in for me. So this information is basically the API information, API header configuration and everything. So if you really required this kind of information, then you can use it. Like you wanted to use the status code, so you can say data.status. So what you can say, if data.status equals 200. Okay, generally define 1 and then only do console log. Okay, otherwise it won't. Okay, so if you click on this, you'll get that data, and you can console data.data. That's where your data is coming in. Okay, so if you notice here, right, you have data.data. So now if you click on this button, get post data, you are getting this data here. Okay, great. Now how can we do post API? As I told you, like this method which Axios provide, right, get post put delete. So you can utilize the same, right? So you can just handle click, handle post data, you can say. Okay, post API data. Okay, post API data. So now you can define one more handle. Okay, I'm just giving you the example. In real-time scenario it might be differ, like you might be calling your middleware like Thunk or Saga or any kind of these things. That's where you will be doing your calls, right? So now you can copy whole of, now you can copy everything here, right? So everything instance, this one. So I'll just change this post data. I'll just say that post data and post data. So what I'm doing here is the first parameter, right? So what I want is I just need to send data to this post, and because I said the first parameter will be URL and second parameter will be your data which will be passing through. So we can copy the data from here. So this is the data we should pass. Okay, so quickly in the second parameter we will pass the data. So in order to pass, let's define body params equals to this, and this body params I'll pass as second parameter. So as and when I do that and I change this get to post, so basically what I'm doing here is I'm asking Axios to do the post call on this URL and using these parameters. Okay, so I can change the title to this is new title. Okay, and this is new data on body. Okay, with user ID 10. Great. So as we have this data passing through this particular post API, so now if I call this method, basically if I click on this button, right, so I come back here, I have this post API. So let me break this one first, so that we have these buttons in different lines. Yeah, so we have these buttons now. So now if I click on post API data, okay, it will go to the network, it carry the payload which we are sending, and it gets the data, right? Okay, so one thing here, you notice we have status code 201. That's why we are not getting this console here. So let's change back to 201. Okay, now if I save, reload, click on this post API. Okay, great. So we are sending the data to our server. Okay, and then come back and see we have this data updated here. Great. So similarly we can do our put API and delete API. So you just need to change here like to put and delete. Okay, so these are the functions Axios provide. So the great thing about Axios is not just using Axios directly, but in bigger project size, so you will define your configuration in one place. Okay, so Axios provides something called AXIOS Instance, so which will help you to configure at once, and you can reuse the things multiple places. Okay, so how is that? So if you notice here, they have something called AXIOS Instance, right? So we can directly copy this part. Okay, and let me put it here. So this instance variable we can change to Axios in caps. Okay, so now you see something here is base URL. So what does that mean? So this URL, if you notice here, to place it is not even changing, right? So it is common. So what we can do, we can keep this as a base URL. Okay, let me copy this. So this base URL I can replace with our base URL. Okay, and this slash also I can keep it here itself. Now the timeout part is there. So timeout is something like it wait for that much time and then it will basically cancel that request. So this 1 second is very less, so let's keep it 5. Okay, these headers should be the JSON headers. Okay, if you notice here we have JSON header, let's copy that and let's keep as a configuration here. Okay, now we are also setting up this UTF-8 but Axios have more settings to it. I will tell you about that. So now we have set up our base setup. So we have set up our base configuration. So now let me quickly remove this part from each of these APIs. So now our API looks a little more sorted, right? Okay, great. So now what we can do, in order to use this instance, you should not be calling this Axios directly. So what you can do, you can just replace Axios with capital Axios. And the great thing about this part is you can keep it outside. So basically this instance you will be using in whole application. So let's keep this outside. Let me create a util, create a file called axios.js. Okay, I'll keep this here and export default Axios. Okay, and now because I'm using Axios here, I need to import Axios. Import Axios from Axios. Okay, so that is the only dependency I have here. That's why I'm just importing Axios. Nothing else is required. So now this Axios is available throughout the application. So So in app.js we was using it already, but if you see, we have not imported Axios. So let me import Axios from okay. So we are, I think we have to just say asset, utils / Axios. Okay, that's what we have to do. Now this Axios is available to use anywhere in your application, right? If you go back and reload your application and try to get the data, you are getting the data. If you post the data, you are posting that data. Okay, I think you have some problem here. Let's see back. Okay, it should be post, not put. Okay, so if I change back to the post, yeah, so it's getting it, so it's getting that response. Yeah, so we have it here. Okay, so I think now you understood how we can create the instance and reuse it in multiple components, right? This instance have more configuration, right? These are very basics, but if you wanted to basically use Axios with different configuration, so if you wanted to use Axios with different configuration, so what all are options available here? So now if you go further, right, go to the next. Yeah, so you see a lot of these configuration available. So definitely in every project everything is not required, but for sure if it is required, then you can always leverage this kind of configuration which is readily available, right? You don't need to work on anything, right? So you just need to pass some kind of parameters, and that's how you are done with it. So I'll tell you some of very important, right? So like transform request and transform response. Basically when you send request from your browser to your backend server, right? So sometime your server API will request parameters in base64 or some other conversion, right? So you can convert at one place. So you don't need to convert in each API, like convert to base64 and then pass it through. So what you can do, you can use this common method available in Axios configuration. Similarly, if you are receiving the data in base64 manner, what you can do is you can convert that to the normal data using this transform response basically, right? The headers, right? So common headers you can set. So headers can be multiple, right? So you can have your JWT token authentication, you can have your content type or any kind of these headers, right? You can set it here. You can set the default parameters which you are passing from your browser to backend. So let's say it can be a ID, or it can be a session ID, or whatever it is you wanted to pass through your network to your backend server. Okay, similarly we have data. So data you can set like default data, so that these APIs, these type of APIs will have a default data available. So definitely do not require any kind of options or body parameters to pass, right? So they have clearly mentioned only for these type of APIs we are supporting default data. Okay, so similarly timeout I already told you, and with credential false or true, basically this kind of configuration required when you deal with cross-site issues or cross-site access controls. So you might need to keep it true or false based on that. Okay, so response type JSON. So basically if your data is on JSON or XML or whatever it is, you can replace here in common configuration. So by default it is JSON, as we have kept here. If even we do not keep this, right, so we don't need to worry about that. So, okay, even UTF-8, so these two if you even remove, it will work. Okay, so XRF token, these all are security measures. So if you are keeping the tokens on your APIs, XRF tokens, you can actually integrate here directly. Great. I think we have a couple of more things, like if you wanted to get your upload or download progress, you can still get through these methods. And max content length, basically the content which you are receiving right from your API, you can set that. Or see response, the max content or response content. Okay, similarly body length, so whatever data you are sending from here to there, HTTP request content. So this request content also you can restrict. Okay, you should not be sending more than this, right? So that you can basically optimize your payload on each API, right? So max redirect. So a couple of more things you can go through, like you can also set up your proxy settings here and on the common place. right? I think pretty much all the configuration I have spoke about here, I think that will really help you in your project. So what I just tell you is always keep your Axios instance outside. One more thing, you can also create multiple instance. Okay, this is one instance. Basically you might have different microservice to hit, right? So there might be different kind of configuration you require, so you can create multiple instance with multiple configuration. Okay, so that is also possible. Yeah, I think pretty much it on Axios configuration. Yeah, and how you can use in your React.js. Yeah, thank you so much guys, and hope you have liked this video. Please click on the thumbs up button and also subscribe to my channel. Stay tuned for the next video. Next video is on React Router VS6. So we will be covering the latest React Router and all the features. Okay, stay tuned guys. Bye, take care.